Welcome to Spirit Manifest, where spirituality meets with transformation. Allow your thoughts, energy, and actions to create the life you desire.
Hello, soul family. Welcome to Spiritual Manifestation. If this is your first time, welcome. If not, I'm glad to have you home. Before we even pull the first card, I need to say this. Something has shifted. And if you've been feeling emotionally off-center, maybe even overwhelmed by memories or energy that isn't fully yours, you're not alone. There's been this subtle but powerful pull in the collective. Like old emotions are rising to the surface, and truths that were buried are pushing their way through. And here's the thing, this isn't just your own process. It's also coming from someone else's energy. Someone who's been silent. Someone who has tried to suppress what they feel for you, but it's getting harder to ignore. I've been picking up heavy waves from the divine masculine lately, like they're sitting with everything they ran from, and it's starting to echo louder than their distractions ever could. So today, we're going to do a no-contact reading. We're asking, how are they really feeling deep down? How are they seeing you in this moment? What is Spirit trying to reveal about this connection right now? Let's go ahead and pull the first card and tap directly into their heart space. I just pulled the Strength card. And wow, Divine Feminine, this couldn't be more accurate. Right now, Spirit is showing me a masculine who has always thought of himself as someone who moves forward, someone who never looks back. This is a person who's used to making clean cuts. When something ends, they move on. They don't circle back, they don't linger in emotions, and they definitely don't stay stuck until they met you. See, this is someone who completely underestimated you. They didn't think your energy would stay with them. They didn't think your silence would be loud. And they definitely didn't expect your absence to hit them this hard. What's wild is they're realizing now that you're way more powerful than they gave you credit for. And honestly, that's what's bothering them the most right now. This masculine energy is intense because what's hitting them isn't just missing you. It's facing the truth that they can't shake you. Ever since that last moment between you two, whether it was a conversation, a look, or even a goodbye, something about it imprinted on them. And the more they try to ignore it, the more it follows them. You're showing up in their mind, in their daydreams, in signs and random moments when they least expect it. What's really getting to them is how your energy feels stuck to them, like it's glued to their skin, and they don't know how to get it off. It's triggering. Because this isn't someone who likes to feel out of control emotionally. They were certain they had moved on. They truly believed this was a chapter they had closed. But you weren't just another connection, and now they know that. And I think what really shakes them is the way you're showing up in your feminine energy. You didn't chase, you didn't reach back out, you didn't break down, you just stood tall in your silence, in your grace, in your strength. And that kind of power, they've never felt that before from someone who walked away. To them, power has always looked like ego, being louder, moving on faster, appearing unbothered. But you've shown them a whole different side to power. You've shown them that the softest energy can be the most unshakable. And it's flipping something in their perspective. It's like now they're the one frozen, confused by their own emotional reactions. If there's any access between the two of you, if you still see each other's posts, if you share mutual friends, or even just cross each other's energetic fields, they're doing everything they can to look untouched. On the outside, they're giving off, "I'm fine." On the inside, it's chaos. And all of it is centered around the impact you had on them. You're in their thoughts more than you know, but they won't admit it. They won't say it out loud. They won't even let their pride bend enough to face it. But Spirit is showing me this. They're sitting in silence, shaking their head like, how is this feminine still in my energy? And the truth is, because you're different. Everything about you is different. The way you handled this no-contact situation, the way you carried yourself, the way you stayed in your divine softness without shrinking, that is what they're still holding on to. You weren't just another lesson, you were the awakening. And now, even though they try to act strong, it's your strength that has them humbled. Now I just pulled Death card. This card gets misunderstood so often, but not today, because this is not about endings in the way they expected. It's about what happens when a soul evolves right in front of their eyes. Divine feminine, this masculine thought they knew who you were. They had a version of you that they kept in a little box inside their mind, a box labeled predictable, available, the one I can always come back to. But now they're opening that box and realizing you're not even in it anymore. You're not who you were when they left. They're watching you, whether they admit it or not. They're checking on you, peeking at your photos, feeling your energy, and what they're seeing. It's throwing them completely off, because everything about you says, I've changed. Your look may have shifted, new style, new glow, maybe even a softer body or sharper edge, but it's not just about what's on the outside. It's your aura, your presence. It feels like a whole new frequency they can't touch. And the truth? It's eating them up, because they didn't think you'd rise like this. They didn't think you'd take the silence and turn it into self-love. They didn't think you'd take your pain and plant it like a seed, then grow into someone even more radiant. But you did. And now they don't know how to approach you, because the version of you they once loved doesn't exist anymore. This masculine was sure they were the one who moved forward, that they were the one looking ahead while you stayed behind. But what they're realizing now is that you're so far ahead of them emotionally that they can't even feel your energy the same way. They used to know how you felt without asking. Now, they're confused, triggered, and silently obsessing over how they lost access to the very soul they thought they had wrapped around their finger. It's your transformation that's haunting them. Not because they don't love what they see, but because they weren't part of the process. They weren't there for the glow up, the healing, the rebuilding. They didn't witness the quiet nights when you cried, then picked yourself back up. And because of that, they don't get to claim this version of you. And deep down, that's what they can't stand. And here's something else. They really thought your silence meant weakness. They thought if you weren't speaking, if you weren't posting, if you weren't reacting, that you must be hurting, that you must be waiting. But instead, you were evolving. You were rebuilding yourself from the inside out. They had no idea that in that quiet, you were actually doing the deepest work of your life, reclaiming parts of yourself you used to hand over freely. And now the person you've become, she's not chasing anything. She attracts everything. What's wild is that this masculine doesn't even know who they're longing for anymore. Because it's not just nostalgia, it's grief. They're grieving a version of you they had access to. And now that you're showing up in your power, in your glow, in your peace, they're realizing too late that the door they once walked through without knocking is locked. Not out of revenge, not out of spite, but because you've outgrown the version of yourself who left it open. They're trying to act like they're not watching, trying to play it cool, pretend like they're unaffected. But Spirit is making it clear they're keeping tabs. They're observing your every move and questioning why it feels like they're the only one still stuck. Because you're already gone. Not physically, maybe. Not emotionally, fully. But energetically, you've died to the old version of yourself. And what stands in your place now is someone they no longer know how to reach. And that scares them more than they'll ever admit. The next card I just pulled is the Empress. And divine feminine, I mean, the energy is undeniable. You're glowing, you're magnetic, you're sitting so deeply in your divine power right now that it's physically pulling on this masculine's energy. The Empress doesn't chase, she doesn't reach, she creates. And that's exactly what you've been doing, not just with your outer world, but with your energy. Everything about you is radiating a new kind of power that this masculine didn't see coming, and honestly, he doesn't know how to deal with it. Because here's what I'm picking up. Your sacral chakra is wide open right now. It's the space where desire, creation, and feminine energy live, and it's lit up in you. It's like Spirit flipped a switch and said, "Now you remember who you are." And since that moment, you've been moving different, looking different, feeling different. And this masculine, he feels it hard. You're showing up in the world with a whole new glow. Whether you've changed your appearance, your hair, your body, your clothes, or it's just the way you walk into a room, something about you is screaming rebirth. And here's the wild part. Even if they don't have physical access to you anymore, they can still see it, feel it, sense it. It's all over your aura. Your energy is undeniable. It's loud without making a sound. What's throwing them off is how strong this attraction has become. They're feeling a desire they used to control. Now they can't push it down. And this desire, it's not just sexual, it's spiritual, it's creative. You're not just the person they were once intimate with. You've become the vision they can't reach. You've become the muse that wakes up parts of them they thought they buried. And that's frustrating them more than they want to admit. See, when you came into this connection, you had intentions. You knew what you wanted to create. You came in with heart, purpose, and vision. But they came in just wanting to experience you, without direction, without depth. And now that you've elevated, they're realizing they weren't ready. They weren't on your timeline. You were building something spiritual. They were just playing with energy. And that's where the real separation happened, because now you're not even available for the kind of connection they tried to offer. You've literally shifted timelines, divine feminine. You're in a whole new vibration, attracting higher love, real alignment, and experiences that match your worth. And your masculine, they can feel the gap between where you are and where they left you. It's this gap that's eating at them. Because even though you've detached, they're still watching, still checking your posts, still trying to figure out how you're glowing without them. They're seeing a new version of you, and it's one they no longer have the right to reach for. And the more they realize that, the more frustrated they become. Not because you're doing anything wrong, but because they're finally seeing your power now that they don't have access to it. And what's hitting them hardest now is the realization that they never truly saw you. They saw your softness, your love, your beauty, but they didn't see your becoming. They didn't see your sacred rage, your quiet rebuilding, your decision to stop waiting and start rising. And now that you're standing in your fullness, they're trying to make sense of how they ever thought you were ordinary. You were never ordinary. They just weren't ready to witness the power you were still unlocking. And now that it's out, it's blinding them in the best and worst way. They're sitting in a kind of hunger that's not just physical, it's spiritual starvation. It's the ache of knowing they once had access to something rare, something divine, and they didn't protect it. And now everything about you is saying, you can't come where I'm going unless you've done the work. And the truth is, they haven't. Not yet. And that's what makes this energy so intense, because they want you, crave you, dream of you, but they don't know how to meet you where you are now. And the Empress, she doesn't reach down. She rises and lets the worthy catch up. This desire they're feeling, it's mixed with regret, mixed with longing, mixed with this deep, unspoken anger that they're no longer part of the version of you they secretly always wanted. And that's driving them wild. Because in their mind, you were supposed to stay soft, small, reachable. But now you've become the Empress, and there's nothing casual about you anymore. Moving on, I just pulled here the Moon card. And this card says everything we need to know about where your masculine is right now. They've been hiding feelings, hiding truth, hiding the part of them that still aches for you every single day. But under this moonlight, nothing can stay hidden forever. Their silence, it's not strength, it's fear, it's avoidance. It's the desperate attempt to control a truth that's been growing louder with every passing day. And divine feminine, you're the one truth they can't shake, no matter how quiet they try to be. Your energy still lingers in places they thought they cleared, in the songs they skip, in the people they meet, in the spaces that used to feel safe. You're not physically there, but your essence is embedded in their world. And the hardest part for them? You feel closer when they can't reach you. That's what's messing with them. You used to be easy to access, emotionally, spiritually, maybe even physically. But now, you're a mystery. And that mystery is haunting them in the quiet. They've been pretending, playing the part of someone unfazed. They've been walking around like they've got it all figured out, like they've moved on. But Spirit is showing me a masculine who is drowning in questions. Why didn't I say how I felt? Why didn't I fight for her? Why can't I let her go? They thought burying the truth would give them peace, but instead, it created this storm inside, and the more they deny it, the stronger the pull becomes. And here's what's really wild: your softness, your stillness, your refusal to chase. That's what's calling the truth out of them. You're not even speaking. You're not even reaching. but your presence is exposing everything they've tried to suppress. They know the moment they get close to you, the lies will fall apart, the walls will crack, their truth will spill, and that's why they've stayed away. Not because they don't care, but because they care too much to handle how real it all still feels. You were honest, you felt it all, you let it break you, and then you built yourself from the rubble. That's your power. You didn't avoid the pain, you faced it, you spoke it, you became more whole because of it. Meanwhile, your masculine chose silence, chose the easy road, chose masks over healing. And now they're sitting in a world where you're elevated, aligned, and glowing, and they're still lost in their own illusions. This is why it hurts them to see you now, not because you're trying to cause pain, but because you've become everything they never thought you'd be without them. You were supposed to stay small, supposed to wait, but instead, you rose. And now they're stuck watching the person they once had become the version they secretly wished they deserved. And what's really making this harder for them is knowing they can't lie to you, not like they do with everyone else. With others, they can smile and fake it. They can pretend they've moved on, pretend they're building a life they're proud of. But with you, one glance, one moment, one pull into your energy, and the facade crumbles. Because your spirit doesn't just hear their words, it feels the truth in them. It feels the ache they won't admit to. And that's what scares them. That's what keeps them quiet. Because if they came forward, they'd have to be real for the first time in a long time. And the truth they're running from, it's not just that they still love you, it's that they never stopped. Even when they acted distant. Even when they tried to distract themselves with other people, other lives, other timelines. You stayed in them, quiet, gentle, powerful, like a dream that never really ends. And now that they see you shining, now that they feel your detachment, it's like something inside them is waking up. They're realizing that this wasn't just a connection. This was a mirror, a reflection of everything they never said, never healed, never faced. They can feel the shift. They can feel that you're no longer emotionally accessible like before. They know they don't have the same pass to your heart. And that's killing them because you gave them that space once, and they didn't treat it like the sacred gift it was. They took it for granted. And now that it's gone, all they can do is sit in the shadows they created, watching, regretting, hoping, but too scared to take the one step that would set their soul free, speaking the truth they buried for too long. Because under the moon, everything hidden eventually rises. And for them, that moment is getting closer. They're terrified, divine feminine, not just of losing you, but of facing you. Because you're the only one who sees through their soul. You're the only one whose silence speaks louder than their entire performance. And deep down, they know the truth was always safest in your presence. That's why they're still watching. That's why they're still holding back. Because the moon can only hide so long before everything comes to light. Now I just pulled the card of judgment. And divine feminine, this is the exact vibration your masculine is sitting in right now. It's that moment where the universe says, no more running, no more avoiding the truth, no more hiding behind distractions, no more pretending that choices don't come with consequences. This card is a spiritual wake-up call, and they're hearing it loud and clear. You've been evolving, rising, creating a new timeline rooted in truth. But they've been circling the same mountain, repeating the same lessons, hoping for different results. And now Spirit is putting a mirror in front of them they can't ignore. This isn't punishment, it's alignment. It's everything they didn't say coming back as an echo. It's every moment they chose ego over honesty, now sitting heavy on their chest. Because judgment doesn't just show you where you are, it shows you who you could have been if you'd chosen different. And that's the part that's breaking your masculine open right now. They're seeing that the reason they're still stuck in the loop isn't because the world's against them. It's because they weren't willing to be real, especially with you, especially with themselves. And here's what's wild. They're starting to understand that you didn't leave them. You elevated. You chose a higher path. You stopped matching the version of them that was rooted in fear, pride, and silence. And that choice, that ascension, it's forcing them to confront their own stagnation. They thought time would heal this. They thought ignoring it would make it go away. But now, your glow, your peace, is the proof that healing comes from truth, not time. And that's what they're being shown right now. This karmic cycle they're caught in, it's not just about relationships, it's about identity, who they thought they were versus who they really are, what they projected versus what they denied. And Spirit is stripping all of that away. They're being asked to choose, evolve or repeat, be honest or keep circling. And even if they've been resistant, your energy is what's pushing them closer to that breaking point. Because you've done the work, you've reclaimed your power, you stopped shrinking to make space for someone who couldn't meet you where you were. You healed the wounds they helped open. You forgave in silence. You became someone who no longer waits, but creates. And that's the part they didn't expect, that the version of you they knew would eventually outgrow them. And that's what's making this so painful for them. Because for the first time, they're not blaming anyone else. Not their past, not their circumstances, not even you. They're sitting with the quiet realization that they had a choice, and they didn't choose it. And now that they're finally ready to see what was always in front of them, it's no longer within reach. That's the real judgment. Not just the awakening, but the space between realizing what you want and recognizing you're no longer aligned to receive it. And yet, this isn't the end of the story, because what Spirit is also showing me is that judgment is a portal. It's a second chance, but it's only for the brave, only for the ones who are willing to tear down the masks, drop the act, and finally stand naked in their truth. And your masculine, they're on the edge, teetering between the life they built from fear and the life they could live from truth. You're not forcing them. You're not waiting, you're just being. And that is what's creating the pressure for them to finally rise. So if you've been wondering if they feel it, if they're aware of the gap, the weight, the cycle, yes, they do. But this isn't your burden anymore. You've passed your test. You've answered your call. Now it's up to them. Will they continue looping in comfort and ego? Or will they do the terrifying thing, step into the light and meet the version of themselves you've always seen? Because you're no longer accessible from the shadows. And this time, they have to come correct or not at all. And now, they're sitting in that reality, watching you radiate a whole new frequency, feeling that distance vibrate like a wall between timelines. And spirit isn't letting them numb it anymore. They're being called to rise, to awaken, to course correct. And the one thing they keep seeing over and over is you. Not because you're chasing, but because your presence is the proof of what happens when you answer the call and say, I'm ready to grow. I just pulled the Hanged Man, and this card speaks volumes about where your masculine is right now. They're suspended, stuck between impulse and intuition, between desire and delay. The truth is, they want to break the silence. They want to reach out, feel your voice again, remind themselves that you're real. But spirit is holding them back, not to punish them, not to frustrate them, but because this moment isn't about action, it's about awakening. And for your masculine, that means learning how to sit with their desire without letting it distract them from their soul's actual work. There's a fire burning in them right now, divine feminine. And yes, it's rooted in attraction, in longing, in the way your aura has shifted so completely that it almost feels like you're glowing in a realm they can't reach. But it's also rooted in frustration, because they're watching you elevate, and it's making them question everything they thought they understood about power. You've become the version of you they always secretly wanted, strong, sensual, unattainable. And now they're realizing that they're no longer qualified to access that energy, not until they rise to meet it. This is why you feel their pull so strongly right now, because they're fighting themselves. They're trying to stay focused on their path, but you're the test. You're the vision they can't shake. You're the proof that something sacred is still possible, but only if they do the work, only if they break the cycles, only if they stop romanticizing old versions of themselves and finally choose to evolve. And what's really wild is they're starting to get it. Spirit is pressing on their heart, whispering, "This time, do it differently." They want to reach for you. They want to know who gets to hold this version of you. But what truly shakes them is the thought of someone else having internal access to you, not just your beauty, not just your body, but your truth, your softness, your secrets. That's what's been haunting them, because they remember what it felt like to be close to you in that way. And the thought of someone else receiving that from you, that's what has them spiraling. That's what makes them pace, delay, overthink, and still do nothing. Because they know it's not about reaching out. It's about rising up. And the thing is, this pause, it's not just about timing, it's about identity. Your masculine is realizing that the version of themselves who could comfortably ignore your worth, who could walk away from something sacred, is no longer someone they want to be. But in order to release that version, they have to grieve it. They have to sit in the discomfort of who they were and why they chose what they chose. That's the part no one talks about. That evolution isn't always about rising up fast. Sometimes it's about being still long enough to feel the full weight of your past choices. And that's exactly what Spirit is doing with them right now, stripping away the noise, slowing them down, making sure that when they do come forward, it's not from need, not from lust, not from fear of losing you, but from clarity. Because this connection isn't meant to be rushed. It's meant to be real. And if they're going to return, it has to be from a place of truth, not habit. Spirit won't let them reach for you unless their hands are clean, their intentions pure, and their heart wide open. But it's not just spirit holding them accountable, it's your evolution, your detachment, your joy, your glow. The more you rise, the more they realize they have no choice but to level up or watch someone else match you where they couldn't. And that's what's keeping them up at night. The knowing that someone else could step in, that someone else might see the light in you and never hesitate the way they did. And even though they want to believe no one could love you like they do, deep down, they know that someone will, and that person might be ready now. They're starting to understand that your silence isn't a punishment, it's a boundary. That your distance isn't rejection, it's a reflection of your standards. You've done too much work to entertain anything that doesn't honor you. And they feel that now. They see the invisible door you've shut, not out of spite, but out of sacred protection. And while part of them wants to rebel, to burst through it, to reclaim you, they also know they can't. Not unless they've become someone worthy of standing beside you in truth. And what's beautiful, Divine Feminine, is that you never forced this awakening. You never begged. You never threatened. You simply chose you. You reclaimed your power. And now the universe is showing your masculine exactly what happens when a woman stops pouring her energy into proving her worth and instead becomes the living embodiment of it. This is the transformation they're witnessing. This is the shift they can't unsee. And whether they catch up or not, that part is no longer your responsibility. Your only job now is to keep rising. And here's the sole truth of it all. The Hanged Man isn't about punishment. It's about surrender. It's about pausing long enough to finally see things clearly. And your masculine, they're seeing now that your power doesn't come from how loud you are. It comes from how completely you own your silence, from how you refuse to chase, from how you let go without losing love. And now, the only way forward is for them to meet you at your level, not because you demanded it, but because you showed them how powerful a woman becomes when she finally chooses herself. Okay, this feels like a beautiful place to close the reading. They tried to ignore their heart. They tried to block the signs. They tried to convince themselves they could forget you. But spirit is louder now, and their soul is aching to come back into alignment, not just with you, but with who they truly are when they're connected to your energy. You bring them home. And even if they're scared, they're starting to see that running from you is the same as running from themselves. If this message resonated, be sure to hit the like button on your way out. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any future readings. I'll see you all in the next video. Bye.